Welcome back to Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Mead, and joining me as always, a seventh level laser lotus, my brother Mike.
And you would know that if you would ever come to one of the meetings.
If you, they're on Tuesday nights, and Tuesday
Where's
night
the support?
is my
Where's the
knitting
support?
group, and
Yeah.
they need me there. I'm the leader of that group, and as much as I want to enter the seventh temple, it's too much for me. It's too much.
Yeah,
for me.
well, if you got to start listening to the alien inside Stan Lee's head, okay?
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So, get
Louder
on our
still.
plane, brother.
Scream into that microphone so I can hear you. On this week's episode, we're not just going to talk about the fun cult mics in. We're going to talk about, we're going to look back at what was the death knell of a week for the Royals, playoff hopes. Sort of the bells are oh, sorry, I got a cough. The bells be ringing for the boys in blue, and they're signaling no more playoff hopes this year. But they'll have a couple more weeks left of games, and so we can at least have fun watching Jack Caglione and Carter Jensen. We'll discuss what we can take away from that 2025 season in our Spotlight segment, maybe look a little bit to the 2026 season. But then we'll also preview the last homestand coming up this week. It'll be the first the Mariners, then the Blue Jays, which will be a nice, tough slate of games to end on at Kauffman Stadium.
Might get to play spoiler.
Might get to play spoiler. The Mariners did just take the lead in the AL West, and so we'll see if we end up playing spoiler for some of those. Yeah, they're on a hot streak right now. Wow. And so, but we'll preview those games and talk a little bit about that homestand. If you want to hear our off-season preview stuff, if you want to hear a bunch of content during this off-season, subscribe to the Royals Weekly Substack. It's $5 a month, which is less than a cup of coffee, and yet you get multiple episodes from us a week. You get writing from me every week. You're going to get to see my big off-season preview, which I've already started and is going to be a monster. I'm really excited about it. You're going to hear about coaching changes, personnel changes, Rule 5 draft stuff, all the sort of cool stuff that takes place in the offseason, free agency, all that sort of stuff. Make sure you're subscribed to that Royals Weekly Substack, royalsweekly.substack.com. It's the best way to support the show. It helps us so much. We really appreciate it for those who do. And we have a lot of fun with the people who do subscribe. I'm in the comments basically every week, definitely every week, sometimes every day. Just mixing it up with people on the Substack. It's wonderful. Also, if you want to support the show, make sure you're out there rating us and reviewing us on all the podcasting platforms. We need those 5 stars. We need those Apple Podcast reviews. That's hugely helpful for us. We haven't had one in a while. We like to read those Apple Podcast reviews on the episode. So make sure you're leaving those. Make sure you're getting word out to everybody you know to subscribe, rate, review, all those sorts of things. Hugely helpful, and we very much appreciate it. We'll start the review of last week with roster news, as is our typical tradition, but there isn't that much to talk about, but we're going to just sort of get through it pretty quickly. Jonathan India was activated from the IL and is now back with the team. I believe he played today. Mike, what are your thoughts on getting India back in the lineup and seeing him play?
I guess. I mean, not really a needle mover for this ball club right now. My priority is not putting Jonathan India in the lineup. But yeah, I guess it's okay to have him back. Real coin toss for what his offseason is going to look like with this team coming up here.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if the Royals non-tender him, because he's entering his final year of arbitration, which means he's going to be his most expensive. And he's done well enough and played enough, really, because a lot of it's just about playing time. He's played enough and done well enough that you can imagine he's going to get a pretty significant bump. He could be a $10 million player next year, and you're paying what, $10 million for a guy who had an 85 weighted runs created plus and played terrible defense everywhere he was? That doesn't really seem worth it to me, honestly, especially when you can take that $10 million and invest it in some other way. And so I would not be surprised if the Royals non-tender him this offseason, or maybe find a trade partner and take something cheap for him or something like that. Somebody who's willing to pay the $10 million. We'll see on that front. But Jonathan India back in the lineup for now. I don't know if we'll see a ton of them before the end of the season, because I don't know if it makes a ton of sense to see a ton of them, but we'll see on that front. In the pitching staff, the final member of the staff who hadn't been on the IL this year went down to the IL, the 7-day concussion IL, or at least the final member of the rotation. Michael Wacha was placed on the 7-day concussion IL. It wasn't clear how that happened. It was reported as a off the field injury kind of thing. So it must have happened just in his private day-to-day life.
Just a sneeze and his head hit the wall. We all know what it is. He's embarrassed.
He's got kids, I think. Maybe they roughhouse and they accidentally got kneed in the head or something. I don't know. Like, it happens.
I love the stories though. Like
they're the best.
The weirdest stories in baseball and football of how guys get hurt. And some of them are truly scary, but some of them are like just funny.
Yeah, and some of them aren't true either. Some of them are like, I was doing something my contract says I wasn't supposed to, so I guess I hurt my back sneezing, like, or whatever, like,
or
it
moving
happens.
some boxes up the stairs,
Or it was very much implied that Michael Lorenzen hurt his oblique throwing up, right, like vomiting.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, remember? So, Mike, what are your thoughts on seeing walk on the 7-day concussion IL?
It hurts. It doesn't really hurt now that we're in this position. I think isn't he even listed as a probable starter for this Mariners?
Yeah, he'll be
series?
back. He'll be back in this Mariners series.
So not a huge deal. Michael Wacha making that one start wasn't going to change the world. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't they win that?
That was the bullpen game, and I think they won that game.
I think they won that one. So not a huge deal. Michael Wacha is still one of the anchors of this rotation.
Yeah, it's not good to see anybody have a brain injury. Those are always bad. But
he's a pitcher. It's not like he's ever going to have another one.
He might not ever have another one. It's surprising that this one happened. But out for one turn in the rotation, back this week. Don't think it has any long-term implications for him. Solid as a rock kind of guy. So yeah, that's all there is to say about that. On the field, the Royals took a week where they needed to go 5-2 and flipped the script, going 2-5 against the Cleveland Guardians and Philadelphia Phillies. The Guardians series was probably the most disappointing, as the Guardians are a team the Royals should be roughly on par with. They dropped 3 of 4 in that one, and then went to the Phillies and were frankly outclassed by a very good Phillies team. Mike, what do you make of the week that was for the Royals?
Well, that Cleveland series was the straw that broke the playoff camel's back, in a sense. So after those first 2 games, when they dropped the first 2 and looked just bad doing it, it felt like the end. It felt like the air came out of the balloon, and it was like, oh, and it hurts because it was against a division foe and a team that this year you have been right there with constantly. You wanted to say you were better than, especially when they lose Emmanuel Clace to the gambling stuff and don't have a lineup that's really all that great, and they don't have a starting rotation that's all that good right now. But they come through and they beat you. They whoop up on you in those first 2 games, and all the air left the playoff hopes. The offense didn't score more than 4 runs in that series, so it was extremely bleak. They scored 4 in the game they won. The rest of them there was a shutout in there. I think
2-run
two-run games
at the end of a meaningless game. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I forgot they'd given up a whole bunch in that one. Yeah. So not great in that Cleveland series, and then you were correct in the Phillies series. Like, big day today. The bats came heavy today, but in those first 2 games, it was like that lineup is so deep. If we didn't score a ton of runs, it was always going to be tough. We even got 6 in that second game, still lost it. Because, you're talking about a team that 1 through 9, every guy can hurt you.
Especially in that stadium.
Especially in that park. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You got to score 6-7 every night to give yourself a chance.
Yeah. And so it didn't especially coming out of that Cleveland series. It wasn't like we were going, oh, well, the offense is really going to explode here. And what is it? I always forget. What's the name of that
Citizens
park?
Bank?
Citizens Bank. Thank you. Right on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, it's rough. I didn't think this would be the week that did us in, but it was.
Well, in retrospect, it definitely looks like it could have been. Remember that this week is a road trip, 7 games all in this week, end of a 13-game stretch, and then
I also thought they'd be coming into the week a little stronger than what they were.
Right. Yeah. It's tough to me because Cleveland seems to play so well against us this year, and we seem to play like shit against them. And then they get good fortune as well. So that Slade Ciccone start, where our expected batting average is like 355 and theirs is like 280, and we take like an 8-2 loss or something. Like every ball they put in play is finding a corner and a gap, even though it's only hit 80 miles an hour. And every ball we put in play is 110 going right to the second baseman. And it's like, damn it. Like, we keep having that kind of bad fortune, and Cleveland just keeps playing good baseball against us, right? And so it was really tough in that Cleveland series. The Philly series, I think you always knew was going to be tough because you're at the tail end of that long stretch, and the Phillies are really freaking good. And so I think one of the things we're going to frame our spotlight segment with is talking about the difference between those types of teams, the Phillies, the creme de la creme of Major League Baseball, and the Royals, because the difference was pretty apparent in that series. Mike, a couple guys, I'm going to say a couple, put up some strong weeks last week, even though it was a tough one. Who is your strong performer for the week?
Well, I'm going with a guy who was definitely a strong performer in that Phillies series, and career milestones. We got to talk about Salvador Perez. Salvador Perez, 6 for 28, 1 double, 3 home runs, 8 RBI, 0 walks, and 5 strikeouts. And of course, the big time game in what was it, yesterday's game, or was that today's game?
Today. That was today.
That was today. Today was the day?
Yeah, he hit that big home. I'm pretty sure.
Well, yeah, he hit a home run today, but the milestone.
Oh yeah, but Miles, that was yesterday. No, that was yesterday.
Yesterday, that was yesterday. Okay, but yesterday he hit his 299th and 300th home runs as a Major League Baseball player, and eclipsed 1,000 RBIs in the same at bat. It was that second home run where he got 300 and 1,000, which is great. You know, you reflect on the legacy of a Salvador Perez. Is he everything that the team needed him to be this year? No, but is he? I mean, he's a legend of your organization who helped you win a World Series, and since then has actually become a better player than what he was probably then overall. Mm-hmm. Streaky as hell, but plays great. You know, was a Gold Glove catcher forever. I always think it's tough when you're framing his Hall of Fame stuff, because you say Salvador Perez was certainly one of the 3 best catchers of his era. And to me, that should get in, numbers or not. If you're one of the best at your position in any era, you should get in. And so that's my kind of plug there, my soapbox, and you'll hear it several more times, but good week from the captain.
Yeah, 300 for me, 300 home runs and 1,000 RBIs were the benchmarks he had to hit to really solidify his case for the Hall of Fame. I think by the time he becomes eligible, there will be enough voters who are skeptical of him based on defensive metrics. But I hope, and this has to be a hope against hope. This has to be like a big time hope, that the case for him around his raw numbers is so strong that, and the case for using defensive metrics is so weak in some ways, that we can say, hey, this is a guy who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Okay. 300 home runs, 1,000 RBIs as a catcher in an era where catchers were nothing offensively, right? In an era where it's super hard to catch.
And at the very least, everybody else thought you were a phenomenal catcher.
There
was not a team in Major League Baseball who would not have taken you behind the plate.
Universally respected as a player, as a person, like all of that, I think has to bump his case up just enough that if 300 home runs and 1,000 RBIs aren't enough, then the fact that he's won a World Series, the fact that he's a Roberto Clemente Man of the Year, the fact that he's been just an amazing ambassador for baseball all over the world has to solidify his case in the Hall of Fame. There was a time when I would have been a little skeptical, but given that he's got that, and he's probably only going to add to those numbers next year, I don't think there's a real strong case to make against him, honestly. I'm going with you're pointing out the veteran. I'm talking about the rookie, Noah Cameron. Just wow, what a bounce back for him. He had a couple rough starts in a row, then got skipped a start. This last week, he had 2 starts after he got skipped. He went 14 innings pitched in those 2 starts, deep into games. 4 earned runs, did give up 3 home runs, but kept guys off bases, only 1 walk to 15 strikeouts this week. That was a strong week from Noah Cameron. Showed you that, yeah, his arm was just a little exhausted. He is now, I think, up to almost 130 innings pitched, which is like a career high for him.
That's just in Major League Baseball too.
Yeah. Oh, did he throw it all in the minors this year?
I think he had like 2 starts, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and so he's thrown a lot this year, definitely a personal high. But I think we got to talk about, and I've talked about this in the Substack to some degree, the huge development that him finding success right away in his rookie year has been for the Royals. Like, it is a huge development to have a guy like Noah Cameron who you can say, well, yeah, he can slot into our rotation next year. What does that mean? That means we might be able to trade Chris Bubich to get some hitting, because we also got this guy Ryan Bergert. We got this other guy, Stephen Kolek. Like, their rotation is so deep now. Their pitching staff is so deep. And Cameron, a big part of that, his emergence is a big part of that, that you don't feel like, oh no, if somebody goes down next year in the rotation, they're dead, they're desolate, or anything like that. You feel like now the pitching is actually a foundational strength from which they can do other things. Because Mike, even coming into this year, when we were like, well, the rotation is good, but we're still a little worried about pitching depth, because We knew they weren't going to be as healthy as they were last year, and they really weren't. But because of Cameron and Bergert and Kolek, they stayed in this playoff race a lot longer than they really should have. A lot.
Yeah, great point. And I want to mention one other thing on Noah Cameron that really impressed me this week. I want you to imagine, cast your mind back 5 years ago. If the Royals bring up a prospect 5 years ago and he has that first inning that Noah Cameron had today, where he gives up the 2 home runs, does he make it out of the third?
No.
He melts down, and you get a blow up inning in the first or the second, and he never makes it out of the third. One of the big things, one of the reasons Noah Cameron has been so successful is he's had the mental fortitude to deal with some guys on base, to deal with giving up a home run, to deal with some tough stuff, and still do his job, keep them in the game, get through 5, that sort of stuff. That to me is very impressive for a guy who's pitching for the first time in Major League Baseball.
Not everybody was dominant. We got to talk about another guy who the rookie starter the Royals are struggling with a little bit lately. Mike, tell us who your week performer was.
Yeah, I just picked him because we need to talk a little bit about it. Ryan Bergert saw his first struggles with this organization so far this year. 7 1/3 innings pitched, 15 hits, 11 earned runs, 6 walks, and 8 strikeouts. Bergert's the kind of guy, you look at 7 1/3, you see 6 walks. You're never going to want that, but Bergert's going to walk some guys. The biggest thing to me, 15 hits, getting way too much of the plate with a lot of that stuff, and they were making him pay in both starts. I mean, he played that 7 1/3, and that's 2 starts, ladies and gentlemen, for Ryan Bergert. Not a great week. I'm not worried about it. It doesn't freak me out or anything. I still think all the things you just said about him are very true. He adds significant depth. I expect him to get a rotation spot next year. Actually, honestly, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they can do with his arsenal, what plan they have for him in the offseason, because I think he could come back better.
Yeah, and another guy who looks like he might just be going through some exhaustion and maybe needs to be skipped to start. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're a lot more deliberate with playing Bergert, because again, Bergert also is nearing or past his career high in innings pitched, and so let's let him take a little breather and maybe he comes out a little stronger for it. My week performer for this week is one Michael Massey. He is back playing with the Royals, not full time. He's more of a rotational player now, but he went 2 for 10 in this last week with 0 extra base hits, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. Massey's a guy we kind of got to talk about, in part because he should at least represent what the Royals are moving on from. The days of giving him a chance, I think, are probably behind us. I think unless his approach takes a drastic step forward, he'll be lucky to make this team as the 26th man going into 2026. He is helping his value because he does play left field and he looks pretty good out there and he's good at second base and stuff like that. But his free swinging, never take a walk, swing at bad pitches approach is just something that we're seeing the team try to move on from, and it's actually paying dividends at times. And so Michael Massey might be shuffling into the category of guys like MJ Melendez and not towards the category of guys like, Jack Caglione and Carter Jensen and stuff like
Michael Garcia.
Yeah. Stuff like guys like that.
He needs that kind of transformation is what he needs.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this earlier today while I was driving. I was like, Nick Lofton is Michael Garcia without bat speed. Michael Massey is Michael Garcia without any approach at the plate. Like that's the difference basically.
And neither one of them have the glove, but yeah.
And neither one of them have the glove of Garcia, but Mike, give us a theme. I feel like our themes are going to be a little bit down this week, but let's see what you got.
Mesh way too well together.
Oh yeah, although written centuries apart, interestingly.
Yes. But look, poets both.
Poets, both of them.
So I'm going with a quote from a song by The Doors. It goes, "This is the end. My only friend, the end." The great Jim Morrison.
You
there.
Sung it, yay!
I know. It was a short.
And Morrison's got a pretty deep voice, which you can.
And handle. Anybody can hit Morrison. Just because that's what it was. We'll look back on this week as the week that ended the boys' playoff run. So down, depressing, but they gave us a long stretch of time to care about this team, and I'll always take that.
Yeah, that was nice. They got us all the way to Chiefs season. I mean, like they made it interesting for a long, long time. And so many teams that go from like 100 losses to the playoffs end up sliding way, way back. They didn't slide way, way back. They just sort of slid back a tiny bit, right? And so we're seeing the outlines of what will be a good team moving forward, and it's built on a foundation of pitching, and they understood that.
Yeah, and I also like there's a lot of good to take away still. We're not necessarily into that part yet of the show or the season even, but a lot of good things to take away from the season.
Yeah. My theme will also have a similar this is the end vibe, but it comes from a Renaissance poet named John Donne. So, he's got a little bit different, but you've heard what's interesting is you've actually heard this line probably a bunch of times in your life and didn't even realize it, that it was from a Renaissance poet and priest named John Donne. It is from a poem called No Man is an Island, which is, it's not what the poem is known as, but that's actually the title of it because it was untitled. And when something's untitled, they just title it the first line. And the first line is No Man is an Island. But anyway, the line that I took
for
from
the
it
history lesson, Professor.
Sorry. The line that I took from it is actually the final two lines, I believe. And the final two, the song is about death and sort of like how when someone dies,
it's a poem.
Or sorry, yeah, it's a poem. When someone dies, it's not just a death of one person. It's like the community as a whole loses something. But the last line is, "Ask not to know for whom the bell tolls; it tolls for thee." Right?
Gross Bard.
And so, yeah, huh? What?
Kramer in Seinfeld. He's like, "Ask not who the bell tolls for, Grossbard." Tolls for thee when he's chasing down his, I think John Grossbard was the guy's name, chasing him down on the plane. It's a classic episode. We all know.
Classic episode. And so if you've heard the song For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica, this is the poem it's sort of based on and all that sort of stuff. The idea is just that, like, and I find comfort in that idea to some degree, actually, because we can be sad that the Royals didn't make the playoffs, but just know that sadness is shared among all the fans. It's a community that has in some way lost, and that way you're not alone. Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Oxshire of West USA Realty. Do you have the same fantasy we do, retiring to a land of eternal summer? If so, you need to call Eric Oxshire of West USA Realty pronto. He can help you transition to a lovely home in the Phoenix area and a life of fun in the sun.
Nothing says fun like snap hooking a tee shot right up a cactus's ass. I'm like a kid in a candy store.
A lot of cacti for you to hit there, buddy.
That's right. Buy a lot of golf balls.
Eric was one of the top real estate agents in the Phoenix area to end 2024 because he gives all of his clients a personal experience focused entirely on their needs. With Eric Oxshire of West USA Realty, it's not about him. It's about you. He's there to listen to you, work for you, and guide you through the ins and outs of buying and selling in the Phoenix area.
Just make sure you've got AC and a kiddie pool full of ice.
Sounds like fun. Find Eric Oxshire of West USA Realty at ericoxshire.com. That's ERICKAUXIER.com. Or just give him a call or shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. That's 480-383-9745. If you're at all interested in what a life in the Phoenix area might hold, let him make the experience all about you. I think this most recent Phillies series offers the Royals some perspective on the difference between them and the teams competing for a World Series. We can, of course, look at the positive aspects of this season, Michael Garcia, Noah Cameron, etc., but I'd like to consider where the Royals are coming up short as we start to transition and discussing what they should be doing in the offseason to get better. Mike, looking at that Phillies series particularly, what do you see as the difference between those two teams, the Phillies and the Royals as they currently stand?
Yeah, I think the biggest glaring difference is the depth of the lineup. Like the Phillies lineup is deep. We mentioned it earlier. Even the guys, and they've got headline talent. Your Bryce Harpers, your Schwarbers, your, Real Muto's having a really good year. Trey Turner wasn't in this series, but is a good player. The difference there is when you get down to the Bryson Stotts, when you get down to those
the Brandon
guys,
Marshes,
those guys at that bottom half of that lineup that produce, that will take a solid at bat, that will hit one out of the park, that fit in the Phillies philosophy And yeah, they play shitty defense, but guess what? They are going to produce for you offensively. And of
They
course,
don't actually play shitty defense, and I'm actually going to get to this later, but they are +4 in defensive run saved. So their defense doesn't actually hurt
their
them.
rep isn't quite what the numbers are spelling out. But either way, those guys weren't picked because they play defense. Okay. You didn't pick up Kyle Schwarber because he's a great defender, even though he DHs 90% of the time. So yeah, it's the depth of that lineup. We are way short on that. Now the rotations are actually, I don't want to call them similar because they're constructed differently, but as far as how good they are, I mean, we may not have a Zach Wheeler, but when Cole Reagans is on, when he's being Cole Reagans, he's as good as Zach Wheeler is. And so those are two deep, strong rotations, the freaking glaring weakness. And before they got Johan Duran, the bullpens were actually kind of similar too. It's it's the depth of the lineup. That's it.
Yeah, the depth of the lineup is the big thing. And part of that contrast is the inclusion of a lot of veteran hitters. And so like they're an old team. Like Castellanos is quite old. Bryce Harper is quite old. I mean, Schwarber's 32 years old.
Bryce Harper's not actually as old as you would think.
Well, so here's the thing. Bryce Harper is old in baseball years because he's been doing this for so long. Okay. Like he has been playing professional baseball since he was 17. He's been playing in Major League Baseball since he was 19. His body is wore out. I was talking about this with somebody the other day. Like, he's
had some injury history too.
May not be right there. Like his age number may not be astronomical, but you play that level of baseball for that long, it's going to really wear down your body. And so, but they got a lot of those type of guys. Brandon Marsh is not young, like Real Muto is not young. Like their team is not a young team, but they're a bunch of veteran hitters who know what they're doing at the plate. And as a result, and fit that ballpark really, really well. Like Schwarber's hitting bombs out to right all day, right? Because that place is easy to hit bombs out to right field. Like they're just the lineup when you can roll like 8 or 9 deep every single night of dudes who can threaten to put one out, who can drive in big runs, who have a great approach at the plate. It's really just a nightmare for pitchers. And that is the difference right now. Mike, do you think that one off season is enough to get the Royals to a place the Phillies are right now?
I don't. Not unless you have to do that would be extremely difficult.
Let's
and you
play
would have
Fantasy
to hit
Land.
on
Fantasyland, what would it take to hit that?
Fantasyland. It's going to take Carter Jensen and Jack Caglione both coming up next year and producing right away, and then still doing quite a bit in free agency, or maybe you get lucky and a Gavin Cross can come up and give you something or something like that. But 2 guys alone aren't going to make the Phillies lineup. Like, it's just not that deep, especially when you consider you do not have Yaz under contract for next year. I don't know that you want Jonathan India under contract for next year. And so, there's a lot of at-bats to be had, competent at-bats to be had in this Royals lineup that we haven't been able to fill with competent hitters. And so, a lot of work to do to get to that Phillies one-off season. I don't think so. That'd be a stretch.
Yeah, it's probably not possible, but if I'm thinking like what would it take? And here's why it's not possible, because it's not just like the numbers aren't there, right? The Royals have maybe 4 hitters you say like we're feeling okay about them. But of those 4 hitters, Vinny's good, but he's not Schwarber good, right? Like Salvi's okay, but he's not Harper productive offensively. And so like they don't have, even those 4 guys aren't like so established, so consistent, and so potent that you're like, we're good there. We just got to find 5 others or some way to fill the other spots,
Well, and because you don't have other guys to fill those roles, those guys also end up filling roles that they should not be in.
Yeah. Like ideally, if he were hitting 8th, you'd be like, great.
Yeah. Michael Garcia is really good, and I think the step he made is a significant one, and I think it'll stick. But I don't know that I ever want him as my leadoff hitter. Salvi definitely wouldn't be hitting 4th. I don't know that Vinny would be hitting 3rd. There's just a lot of things that you can't do when you don't have other guys to put in those spots.
Yeah, and so if we're thinking Fantasyland, like in my mind, it's not just, yes, I think you're right, Cags and Jensen would have to like hit immediately, coming into
one would be my
Baseball.
3-hitter, one would be my 5-hitter, Vinny would be my 4-hitter, Salvi would be way down the lineup at 7 or 8.
You're gonna go real outside of convention, playing 3 lefties in a row there, but all right. But I get what you're saying.
Then Michael hits third, and
right,
Vinny
Michael. Well, no, you'd probably switch those two because then you go righty, righty, lefty, 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 and so why don't you go righty, lefty, lefty instead?
You know what I'm saying? Like those guys.
Yeah, I do know what you're saying. Yeah, it would be in the middle.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm thinking: those two got to hit immediately. It would definitely help if Nick Lofton got some bat speed training and came back with the same approach he has now, but just hits the ball harder, right? Like, because if he can get to major league average or 90 to 100 weighted runs created plus, that's a bench piece that can hit lefties for you. That's a bench piece that you feel better about being at the bottom of the lineup. Then they need to go out and do some work in free agency. And we're going to talk about that with our very next question. I love a good transition.
It's all got to be right-handed work too.
Well, some of it's going to have to be right-handed work, that's for sure. Mike, let's get started. Let's talk about the offseason. Personnel-wise, what do they need to do this offseason?
They need to acquire at least 2 offensive players to lengthen this lineup. And as I mentioned, I think they probably both need to be right-handed. Just because, having a lot of really good left-handed bats is actually a pretty good problem to have in Major League Baseball because most of your pitching is going to be right-handed. But when they get to those guys that are lefties, this lineup right now can do nothing, absolutely nothing. And so you got to start looking for some sort of productive right-handed bat outside of Bobby Witt Jr. and Maikel Garcia.
Yeah, I'll get specific with it. It would be great if they could, in my mind, if they could get like 2 right-handed bats. Although I will point out, interestingly, we said this exact same thing before last offseason. We were like, they need to go out and acquire 2 bats. Like, that's what we were like, we were pushing for that. Now they got India, and we were happy with that at the time. Didn't work out, but good idea to some degree. And it's not just free agency. They can trade Chris Bubich, and there will be a market for him, and there might be some potential there to bring in a bat. And then, of course, Rocafort and Gavin Cross may offer their own offensive contributions at some point.
Both left-handed.
Both left-handed, though. I think a lot of people will look at the free agent class, and one guy I think a lot of people will focus on for the Royals is Bo Bichette. Okay? Right-handed hitter, really good hitter. He's an infielder, but he could play second base for them very easily, right? That's going to cost quite a bit of money. I would be surprised if he gets less than $22 million a year, $23 million a year, right? Are the Royals willing to give up that kind of money for a hitter? Here's the thing. They weren't willing to do it for Anthony Santander. We heard the numbers that came out for him. It was well below what, I forget who ended up paying for him, but well below what they offered him.
And he ended up getting $30 million, didn't he?
Not 30.
I thought he got 30.
I didn't think so. What the hell? We got time.
Did he go to the Blue Jays? I think he went to the Blue Jays.
That'd be funny. Because now they're going to be like, we can't pay Bichette. Oh, yeah, he did go to the Blue Jays. We can't pay Bichette because we paid this guy.
So we can play 50-year-old Anthony Santander.
Yeah. Oh, they ended up giving him less per year. The way they say it on here is he's only making $14 million AAV, but they gave him 5 years. So $92.5 million. So maybe the Royals were able to get him. I think the story was the Royals offered him more AAV, but fewer years. So he ended up taking the Blue Jays offer. The question is, will they be willing to go out and spend for somebody like Bo Bichette, right? Like, because he would be a perfect fit in my mind. Perfect. Solves your second base problems.
Probably solves you a leadoff problem. You
probably solves your leadoff problems. Yeah,
I mean, it's righty because you'll have Bobby next.
Yeah, but Bobby Witt Jr. is great, and so I don't think you worry too much about that. And so that would be great. If not him, maybe somebody like Gleyber Torres could take a second base. I know he's a lefty, and then you go out and you sign like righty specialists like Austin Slater and stuff like that. That is maybe an option as well. Royals Weekly is brought to you by All in Physical Therapy, who are happy to announce that they now offer strength and conditioning programs for youth athletes who want to gain an edge on the football field, basketball court, or baseball field.
I'm looking for an edge at my weekly bridge game. Them old biddies play for blood.
And of course, All in Physical Therapy still offers the best in recovery from total joint surgeries and sports injuries with offices in Blue Springs, Lee Summit, and Belton. They'll help you take care of your recently replaced hips, knees, shoulders, elbows, you name it.
If I get a new elbow, I can thrust it into the face of a rabid senior citizen after getting bridge and regretting my friend choices.
I don't know how bridge works. Is bridge good in bridge or bridge
I think
bad
you just yell bridge when you get a certain type of hand. And so I'm thinking yelling bridge, and then Myrtle attacks me and gets one of those.
Okay, that sounds good. If you're interested in reaching the peak of your athletic performance or getting back to 100% from an injury, bridge or otherwise related, check out All In Physical Therapy at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-pt.com. Or give them a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. It's the final homestand of the season for the 2025 Kansas City Royals as they take on the Seattle Mariners and the Toronto Blue Jays at Kauffman Stadium this week. They'll get a day off on Monday and then 2 3-game series back-to-back the rest of the week. At one point, we thought these series might mean something, but at this point, we're just playing for funsies and pride, I think. Mike, tell us about the Mariners team who for some reason, or who this series actually means a lot to.
Mariners, bunch of bums, bunch of cheating losers. No, they're really good at baseball. They are 82-68, which is good now for first in the AL West. And let's see, does that mean who's chasing
Astros
them?
just below?
Yeah. So yeah, in that first game, it's going to be Michael Wacha against Logan Gilbert, the 28-year-old righty out of Stetson University, a university who I feel like really punches above its weight when it comes to major league talent, because they
for a while there it was producing major league pitchers
just
all
the time. Stetson University, who knew? But he's got a 3.54 ERA, does Logan Gilbert, and a 1.03 WHIP. He's got a four-seam fastball at 95-96, a slider, a splitter, a curveball, and a sinker. He is in the 100th percentile in extension. Just a super talented guy, honestly. 2.86 expected ERA, so it's even better. And he's got an elite strikeout rate of 34%. Tough draw in game one with Logan Gilbert going. They have a fantastic starting rotation. Second game. Look who's scheduled to start this second game. Mr. Cole Reagan's coming back off the injured list against Bryce Miller, the 27-year-old righty out of Texas A&M, 5.59 ERA for Miller and a 1.37 WHIP. He's got a four-seam fastball that's 94-95, a splitter, a sinker, a knuckle curve, a slider, a sweeper, and a cutter. He does not strike out many. He does not walk many. Or he does walk quite a few. Sorry, he walks quite a few. When I was reading through this, I'm like, there's our guy. There's the best chance for winning. One of the highest hard hit rates in Major League Baseball as well. So Reagan's coming back. If he can be real, Cole Reagan's against this guy, this is the Royals' chance to get a win. In game 3, we do not have a listed starter for the Kansas City Royals, but the Mariners are going to throw Luis Castillo, the 32-year-old righty out of the Dominican, 3.76 ERA for him, a 1.25 WHIP. It's weird to think that Castillo is the vet of this team.
Yeah, he's the veteran.
He still seems young to me.
Lineup. No, he's not young.
Yeah, of the rotation, but he still seems young to me.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm like, Luis Castillo. He's not that old, but he's 32, and it's
2025, Mike.
I guess. And when you got like Brian Wu and Logan Gilbert, and they're all young, So tough draw with Castillo too. He's got a four-seamer that's 95, a sinker, a slider, and a changeup. His fastball has a +8 run value, which is really good. It's not Joe Ryan good, but it's good. Pretty high hard hit rate, though, at 46.7%. So he can be touched up, but he's good. He's a good pitcher as well. Tough draw with Logan Gilbert and Luis Castillo to bookend the series.
Yes, a little bit tough, but at least they're all righties, and so that helps,
Yeah.
After that, the Blue Jays come to town. They are 87-62, first in the AL East. We will face two teams that are leading their divisions, at least at the start of the series. On offense, that's where the Blue Jays really shine. 114 weighted runs created plus is second in Major League Baseball. They have a lineup full of mashers. George Springer, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette all having great years. They have 7 guys with over 70 games played and a weighted runs created plus over 100. They also have a few guys who have just played like 50-some games with weighted runs created pluses over 100. They are just that deep as a lineup. Very similar to the Phillies in some ways. though the pitching will not be as good. But offensively, they can really mash. On the pitching side, it's more meh. It's more mediocre, right? As a team, they have a 4.17 ERA. That's 19th in Major League Baseball. Solid years from Kevin Gausman and Chris Bassett. Others are having what you would call like mediocre years. Jose Barrios is in the high threes. Max Scherzer's in the low fours as a ERA, and then their bullpen is just kind of middle of the road bullpen as well. So their pitching is where you can get them. Not a great defense, or they're a pretty good defensive team. Although I remember in the last series they played against the Royals, I think they did not play great defensively. But we'll see if the Royals can hopefully get to some of their pitching and keep these big mashers out of the seats at Kauffman Stadium. We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode with the Just About Outside segment, where we talk about something that's interesting to us outside the world of baseball. Lots of interesting things going on over the course of the last week. Mike, tell us about your favorite ones.
Well, I mean, there's nothing interesting going on that's been my favorite this week, but we did start watching a new television program in my family that I was absolutely certain I was going to hate. So I am a person, I really like watching sitcoms, and so I watch like a ton of them. And I kind of categorize them into two different things. One is one that's extremely funny that I want to pay attention to and is extremely funny. Your happy endings, your Seinfelds, okay? The legendary ones. Your, what's that? Parks and Rec, those ones. Then there's the ones that you can just largely ignore, but you still okay having on. And if you look up, you might catch a laugh. That's what this one is. I thought I was going to hate this show, but it's not bad, especially like if you have a family and you have kids. It's not anything that's going to challenge like morality. You can, like my 3-year-old watches it. I don't have to worry about the topics being discussed and things. It's called The Middle. It was on a long time ago. Patricia Heaton is this kind of star of it, formerly of Everybody Loves Raymond. And yeah, it's just a solid show to ignore. And I absolutely love it because sometimes I don't want to think about a show and I don't really even want to pay attention to it. And that's what we've been doing. And it's great. And because my wife loves it, she like laughs her ass off. I'm more of like okay, that was kind of funny. Funny enough for me to keep watching this show. And so yeah, that's what sometimes mediocre is okay.
Mike, you are just like, your endorsement of television shows is always like, it was good enough to keep on, but not good enough to watch intently. Like,
oh my God, I have a million of those shows.
And you're like, and that's Listeners, why I love it.
If you're looking for shows that are good enough to have on, but that you wouldn't feel okay recommending for anything other than just having on, just email me and I'll send you a list.
Send them to us as Apple Podcast reviews.
You want to hear my hot take? Mm-hmm. Friends is in that for me.
Yeah, I thought
Friends is funny-ish, but nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing special.
Interestingly, Mike and I have kicked around the idea of starting a podcast where we just like talk about film and television and like review various things, but that hasn't happened yet. We'll see if that happens someday. I'm talking about something that's a little different. So I'm talking about this concept from mindfulness that I like to sort of think about, and it's helped me a lot this last week, right? And so this happens all the time in therapy too. People talk about it in therapy because, of course, a lot of therapists use mindfulness techniques. I just call it gratitudes, and then sometimes I just call it gratitudes. It's this idea that when you're having a rough day or you're stressed or whatever, you just tell yourself things you're grateful for. Right? It's almost like Thanksgiving Day. You go around and say what you're thankful for. It's similar to that. You just talk about things in your life that you're grateful for, and that kind of helps shift your mindset and your perspective and that sort of thing. The last couple of weeks have been real rough in my household. I had a virus. My partner had a virus for a week, and then we both got extremely bad rashes for the last week. And so it's just a miserable kind of sick rash, kind of just awful, right? In that time, when I'm scratching the hell out of my arms and legs and everything, it helps me to do this practice of being like, grateful about things, grateful that I have a house to live in, food to eat, a job that I like, grateful that I have a podcast and podcast listeners, that I have interests and passions like sports and other things, and so in doing that, in telling those to myself, I sort of get an opportunity to, one, remind myself that my life is pretty good, but also even in the moment, it can be real practical. I can say like, oh, I'm grateful for the fact that I have great interests like playing the keyboard. And then I can go over and play the keyboard for a little bit. And maybe that distracts me from the fact that my arms want to die, because I'm so itchy, And so that sort of thing has helped me reset my mind in many ways, in my at different points in my life. And it really helps. I don't know. The thing that you find when you do this sometimes, that it minimizes the thing you're stressing about or that you're anxious about. It reminds you that 2 years ago, you wouldn't have even cared about that thing, except it's just in your face right now in the moment, And so it's a lot easier to sort of distance yourself from the stuff that's stressing you when you remind yourself of the big stuff that's good.
We call that perspective in the game.
In the game, yeah, it's great. Gratitude's great for helping build perspective. Make sure if you're having some issues, give it a shot. I highly recommend. That's all we have for you this week. We will be back again next week with an episode about what took place this next week. Just normal stuff. Until then, be good to each other.
And go Royals.